It's the good, the bad and the unexpected with Mark Nelson.
Hello, I'm Mark Nelson and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Unexpected. It's the show where my three guests try to convince me that their good story is the best, their bad stories are the worst, and we'll have some unexpected twists along the way. Welcome to the show, Woody.
Thanks, great to be here.
Brilliant, great to have you all on. So, let's get going with round one. This is the good round. It couldn't be simpler. To win the points, each of you have to convince me that your good story is the best one of the week. So, Gordon, let's start with you. What good story do you have for us this week?
Well, you know how they say the cobbler's son always has the worst shoes? Mm-hmm. Well, I happen to be the son of a GP, and over the years I've relied quite heavily on free medical advice at all sorts of times. But as a 42-year-old man, last year, never have I relied on his words of wisdom, his support, his medical abilities more than when I found myself in hospital in Portugal thinking I was having a heart attack.
Right. It's a bold start. So
It's a bold start. I mean, it all ends happily because I'm here today, but there was a moment where I thought it was going pear-shaped, right? So after all the misery of 3 years, I went off with some pals on a golfing holiday to Portugal. 3 boys from Northern Ireland and me. We had a great time. First day, loads of golf, went out, lots of wine, was drunk. Then we got onto espresso martinis. Anyway, the next day we played golf. We were all absolutely dreadful, and I started to feel tingling in my left hand, then tingling in my left arm, and I'd been the son of a GP. I thought this is normally the sign of the start of a heart attack. Now, I'm a fairly healthy guy, but once you start thinking you're having a heart attack, you're pretty sure that you're convincing yourself you are having one. So I said to the boys, look, do you mind dropping me at the medical centre? I don't want to alarm anybody, but I think I'm having a heart attack. Now, the nurse got me all wired up and said, yeah, your heart rate is 210 beats a minute. I think you need to go to hospital immediately, which isn't what you want to hear when you think you're having a heart attack. So I said, can you call me an ambulance? She said, that'll take too long. I'm going to put you in an Uber. Anyway, got an Uber, collapsed and woke up in a hospital bed attached to a machine with a doctor saying, what on earth have you been doing, young man?
Jeez.
At that point, she asked me to list what we'd had to drink the day before. And as a Scottish man in Portugal, when you start saying, well, I think there were 9 bottles of white wine, I had 6 espresso martinis, and I could see him shaking his head, disgusted with the Scottish specimen in front of him. He then started to wire me up to other stuff. But as I was lying there, one of the other lads I was with went past on a hospital bed with doctors shouting the same questions to him. And I thought, that's not a good sign that he's in the same state as me. At which point they left me in the room to calm down for a second, and I phoned my old man and said, look, Dad, I'm a wee bit worried. I'm in hospital. I passed out and I'm now being shouted at by doctors. Is there anything wrong, do you think, with drinking 6 espresso martinis after 2 days on the Skype? And he just said, what on earth are you doing? Do you realise how much caffeine is in your system? Anyway, he told me that there is a thing called caffeine poisoning, and I had to sort of ride it out in a pretty, it was a pretty scary time, right? Let's be honest about it. Anyway, I got out of hospital, got back to the house, and my mate turned up back, and his name happens to be Jamie Dornan, Hollywood star.
Wow.
And there he was with all the stuff attached to his chest saying, dear me, Gordon, about 20 minutes after you left, my left arm went numb, my left leg went numb, my right leg went numb, and I found myself in the back of an ambulance. Anyway, as he left hospital, the paramedics asked him for a selfie, which isn't really what you want when you're being wheeled out of a hospital room. But anyway, about a week later when we came back and we'd just assessed our lives, I got a phone call from the doctor who was looking after us, and he told us something really interesting. He said, look, espresso martinis aside, at any stage did you come in contact with caterpillars on the golf course? And he sent me a link to an article from the Portugal Times about processionary caterpillars, right? And it turns out that there are caterpillars on golf courses in the south of Portugal that have been killing people's dogs and giving men in their 40s heart attacks.
Wow.
It turns out we'd brushed up against hairy processionary caterpillars, and I'd been very lucky to come out of that one alive. So there's my story. The good news is,
wow,
it wasn't a caffeine overdose. It wasn't a hangover. It was a poisonous, toxic caterpillar.
Jesus. What a story.
There's a story for you, isn't it? And I live to tell the
Wow.
tale, but I was rattling for about a fortnight afterwards, let me tell you.
I'm going to start using this as an excuse when I've come in for nights out to my wife. Like, same caterpillars again.
I'm not having it.
Wow. So, when he was asking you to list the drinks, there must have been a sense of Scottish pride where you were going, legend.
You know when you pull the receipt out of your pocket and it's about 3 pages long? It's not nice when you've got a series of doctors shaking their head at you. It was pretty embarrassing when you're going through the roll call of shame from the pub the night before. And also, don't ask Hollywood stars for a selfie when you think they've just had a heart attack. That was brutal, wasn't it? He did it as well. Good guy, he did the picture.
Brilliant. Well, Gordon, that's a great way to start the show, and I'll decide if your story is going to win the round